Welcome to Rooted Deeply, the podcast. This is a podcast all about loving God, loving others, and raising a generation who will do the same. Today, we have a very special guest on the podcast. It's my husband, John.
Hi, everyone.
John,
I'm her husband,
actually.
John. Nothing.
I think.
Murray.
Is
this going to be good?
I don't know. It depends on what you got.
All right, I don't know if I have anything.
Okay, this has not been pre-planned and we have not written notes. But if this is your first time listening, we're glad to have you here. You can go back to the beginning if you would like the foundation of what we believe and how it influences the entire rest of this podcast. And everything that we talk about in the podcast is kind of laid out, the foundation for it is laid out in those first few episodes. If you've been here from the beginning, then you'll know this is the first time that John has been on the podcast with me. And I'm excited to have him here because a lot of the podcast topics that I've already shared with you guys and we've already gotten into were discussions that he and I had beforehand. You know, they're things that we just talk about on a normal daily basis. And then
a lot of our days are just us talking about anything and everything. And I think that was just also a launching point for your podcast is like, we've had so many good conversations. It's like, we need to have, share these with the world.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have you here so you can share some of your insights. Cause
if I have any,
you will. Today we're talking about being married and misunderstood.
Oh man, that's a good topic.
Okay. So first, I want to share the definition of misunderstood or misunderstand.
To lay the foundation.
Laying the foundation.
All right.
Okay. Misunderstand, to fail to interpret or understand correctly. Or to fail to interpret or understand the words or actions of someone correctly. I personally feel like a lot of conflict in marriage comes from misunderstanding. From misunderstanding each other, from misunderstanding each other's intentions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I have something I can share if you're done saying
Go
what
for
you're
it.
saying. I think a lot of it comes too because of the way we were raised. Like we were raised differently. We weren't raised in the same home. And so the way you are going to take something or say something is going to mean something completely different to me if maybe I was raised in a home that saying something in this tone or in this manner was a negative thing or a positive thing. Like if there's not, because we weren't raised together in the same home, we're going to completely see things differently. And so immediately we're at we're off to at odds because instead of kind of like learning a language, like that's essentially what you're doing. It's like we're learning a language together as we're married. And then that's where I think a lot of those misunderstandings take place.
Yeah. I feel like one of the best pieces of marriage advice I've ever heard was to assume positive intent. Assume that your spouse had positive intent when they said or did what they did. And obviously this is not a end all be all rule. Like sometimes people just royally mess up. And their intentions aren't good. But I think overall, what was profound to me about that was realizing like there are not many interactions that I have with you where I go into it like really wanting to just stick it to you and really wanting to just like make you mad or hurt your feelings or, ruin everything that you have going. Like That's pretty much never my plan or agenda. Usually it comes from, well, I was trying to do this but I thought, cause like to me, this would be a good thing or a helpful thing. And so I just thought that was so profound. Like assume positive intent. If you can assume she's not trying to hurt me, she's just looking at this differently, then immediately your defenses are down and you're seeking to understand. Okay. Right. Like how, if you if I'm assuming you did something with positive intent, then I have to like ask myself, okay, how is he viewing this? Because if he's not trying to hurt me, and it definitely hurt me, how is he seeing this? And it immediately puts me in your shoes.
Right. I think again, it goes back to the way we're raised. We watch our parents do things. Because when you're saying like, I was kind of thinking, you were talking about, obviously it's not the end all be all to say that, but even then we have to look at like, maybe your spouse was raised in a home where like just not good things were happening, but that's all that they knew. And obviously they want to try to do better. And like, we want them to do better, but we also have to recognize like, oh, they didn't have anybody else modeling anything different than the way that they're reacting. So they don't even realize that the way they're acting is not okay behavior, potentially. And so it is like up to like the Holy Spirit to then like start working in each one of us to present that to us. And I can't remember what I was going to say in the second part, but continue on with what you were saying because I lost my train of thought. I derailed it myself.
When in 1 Corinthians 13, it says, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. And I think I never really contemplated, what does that mean? Love hopes all things. But I think it could be said or argued that it means that it believes the best it believes positive intent. It hopes that you have my best interest and that it's, not to hurt or to harm, but is positively intended. So when we can hope all things and assume positive intent, we're flipping misunderstanding on its head. Now we are seeking to understand, and think about it, like how often we jump to conclusions or make assumptions about things, and that kind of eliminates that altogether.
Yeah, actually, I think that was kind of the thought that I had just forgotten is the misunderstanding typically happens too when there's not communication taking place and there's expectations and assumptions, but not communication. One example that I was thinking actually about the other day was, and something that we've worked past and worked through, but it'd be when you would take a basket of laundry or some toys or whatever it was that was not where it was supposed to be, and you put it either in the middle of a doorway or in the middle of a walkway or at the bottom of the steps. And
definitely the steps.
Yeah, definitely the steps. And you would, assume that I would take it up on my way up or down the stairs, and I'd walk right past it because it wasn't the way that I think. Like when I have something and I want it to go somewhere, I just take it to that place, which is fine that it's okay. Because if you're not going upstairs, like I don't mind doing it if I'm going up the stairs, but there's just an assumption that we think the same, and we absolutely, men and women, me and you, we don't think the same.
Right. And so I get frustrated because I'm assuming negatively about your intentions.
Right.
He saw this. He just didn't care about it. He skipped right over it. He just wants me to do it.
I probably jumped over it.
And it's not that I'm leaving it because I just want you to do it. In my mind, it's a system, like a basket at the steps to put everything in, and then whoever goes up next takes it. It's like system, make it, easier, less work for everyone. But yeah, so I'd be assuming you just don't care, or you just are waiting for me to notice it and do it.
Right.
And when in reality, it has nothing to do with that. Your intentions were not to hurt me or to neglect my systems, and you were just focused on what you were doing. And so, yeah, understanding that and being able to.
So if you do that as a woman or as a man, just know, maybe just communicate that a little bit to get that system flowing a little better.
I know I used to hang like a trash bag on the front door. He'd leave to go to work early in the morning, and I'd be like, let me just leave it here. He'll take it out when he goes out. The Joker would open the door with the bag on it. And go right out. And I'm like, how do you not see it?
It's just, there's so many things on our minds, it's like, oh, I'm running late, or I have something to do, or maybe I have my phone in my hand. I'm just not thinking about it. So definitely the communication is key.
Yeah. That's so funny. I feel like in the same thing goes the other way where I guess in my mind, I try to help. Like I see a gap, I see something, and I try to like help fill it, help fix it, help do. And he's like, do you not think I am capable? I'm not a child. I can do this,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to make you feel it like a way. I was just trying to help.
Yeah. And I think we all have like hurts and things from our past that we bring into a marriage. Mm-hmm. And so when those little things, like you're saying, I'm just trying to help, it's like, to me, it obviously probably comes from a past thing in my life where like maybe I didn't feel good enough or feel like I could, was ever given the opportunity to just, be able to do something myself. And so now that I'm an adult and I want to try to do it myself, and then you come and say something, it's like, it's not that it's wrong that you said that. It's probably more of a hurt within that person. So it looks like, honestly, like being able just to like work through those things and talk about it, which isn't easy to have those conversations. So
I think too, like realizing, because those situations have not just can, but they have in the past become ginormous battles and points of frustration and
days long battles,
arguments. But a lot of that can be alleviated with just pausing and taking the time to think, okay, they are not my enemy. They're not trying to hurt me. There's more to this. They have a different experience. Like they think differently, and laying the weapons down and just trying to assume the best about your partner. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy, but that is such a good assuming positive intent. Like that really is the key.
The best marriage advice I've ever heard.
Because there's times I've hurt you and I'm like, what? How did that even upset you? Like, it's just so like we think differently. And so we have to just flip it and go, okay, there's times that I've hurt my wife without meaning to, and it goes back and forth. And so, yeah, that's really good.
Okay. So we're talking about how the key to a happy marriage is trying to be understanding and understand each other. I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like maybe as a man, the call to be understanding, or I think in Peter, it says husbands live in an understanding way with your wives.
Does it?
It does. It says
husbands
live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Obviously, we just talked about how we need to be understanding of each other, and assume positive intent, and how that will diffuse a lot of arguments and stuff. But women are so much more emotional than men and emotionally driven.
Yes.
Men are so much more logical, and women can think logically, but we really are driven by emotion. So I feel like trying to understand emotion, which is such an organic thing, emotion. So do you think that it's difficult to be understanding of me because I'm an emotional being, is what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good. The end.
Yes.
How do you think that
absolutely
affects? I'm sorry. How does that affect your ability to live in an understanding way with me? And what have you done to, I guess, like improve your the skill of being understanding?
Yeah. This is probably something I've learned recently in the last year or so. And I always knew that I'll just say you are more emotionally driven, if you will. And that, I guess it was hard to always like process in those moments where like something logically made sense, but like you didn't see it that way. It was like whatever was bothering you kind of was the priority, if you will. Like it was the emotion trumped the logic. And I think it's the opposite for men, where logic will trump the emotion. So men, we have to be careful to not allow the logic to like bury the emotion. That was the one thing I had to kind of learn, was that just because logically this makes sense, I have to also be able to be emotional so that I can reason with you. But it wasn't like a manipulative way.
At least not allow your logic to squish my emotions, or to silence them and not allow me to have them.
Yeah.
Because that for me would be the most frustrating thing, is like, I need to feel the things that I'm feeling, and I need you to validate them and be there for me and comfort me, instead of just telling me how it'll be okay or how I'm wrong or, something like that. It would just make me feel so unloved, because I just needed comfort, I guess, or validation.
You think, you gotta, like, the verse, what is the reference? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
In Ephesians.
It's like, you really look at how Christ dealt with the people he was dealing with. To him, they probably looked very emotional and unreasonable, but he still loved them anyways. And so I think that's like our call as men, to just love you through those things. And it's not loving when we try to take our logic and just say, sorry, this is just the way it is, because this is what makes sense, and you just need to figure it out. Like, that's how unloving is that. And so I think especially like for myself, I'm speaking for myself, I'm still working on it, getting better, I think, though, but that in these like arguments or disagreements, to be able to, like, to stop and recognize, okay, she's coming at this from an emotional perspective, and so I have to kind of meet her. Usually a
disagreement would be like fear based. Yeah. I think a lot of times when we have disagreements about something, it's because I might be feeling nervous or scared, worried about something. So I'm expressing my, like, I don't agree, or we shouldn't do that because, and it's rooted in fear. And so what I really need is for you to comfort me and assure me that, hey, I got this and everything's going to be okay. But if you just come at it with logic and don't do anything to address the root of it, which is the fear or the concern, then I'm not going to feel any better. And I'm going to keep trying to get my way because the fear is what's driving it, and you haven't dealt with that.
Yeah.
So then it becomes what I want versus what you want, instead of like dealing with the root of why I want something different than you want to begin with.
Right. Yeah. In the moment, it always feels childish, or like, and I don't think it is childish, but I think it's, what's that, man? I'm not sure even how to quite explain this. But it's like, and let me ask you, like, in these moments of where we're having this disagreement and it's maybe fear-based, you're not saying that that's what it is. But it's being shown in a different way. But the comforting and the reassuring is what you're looking for. Reassurance is what you're looking for. It always feels silly to me to be like, just want to go up and be like, it's okay, it's going to be okay. Like, and hug, like, I'm like, that's just because that's the man thought of, like, that's not logical. Like, that's not going to fix this, to just like give her a hug and like tell her, hey, like, it's going to be all right. Like,
yeah, I don't know if I'm just like emotionally immature or if other women will relate to this, but
please let us know too. Cause I
no, it's not just like a hug and it's going to be okay.
That's not what I mean.
It's like, I'll give them an example. Financially, if things are tight for us and he wants to do something, or, whatever, the fear for me
just kidding.
Would be like, I don't know. Maybe we don't really have time. That's just not a good idea. Like, I don't know. We could probably find another way to do it. Like, whatever reasons I'm giving him, where he's just like, what? That's more difficult. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And we could like butt heads so hard. But for me, it's coming from like a feeling of lack, like, or it may be time. I think I get more defensive with our time and your time.
You're resource guarding.
And I will not want, something to take away this time that I feel like we don't ever have enough of. And so he will get so frustrated because he feels like I'm just like controlling what he's doing, or not wanting him to participate in things, or not wanting myself to do things. But it's really coming from a feeling of like lack to where, so what you could do in that situation would be, hey, I know that this cuts into some time that we would normally spend together, but you know what? I'm going to get a babysitter or do something where we're going to carve out this one-on-one time, me and you, something that like takes care of that need. Or so if it's financial, just saying, hey, I know this is scary, but I promise I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we always have what we need and more than enough. And, or even assuring me, God has never let us down in that department. He has always come through. Sometimes it just takes needing to hear that, like, I've got this, because if I don't hear that he's got this inside, I'm thinking, oh, this is on me. Like this is, it becomes my responsibility. And that weight, I'm telling you, God knew what he was doing when he established the order of a home, because that burden of providing is heavy. It is, I've had to carry it at times, and it is like crushing. It is a heavy burden. And so, yeah. And even that's a whole nother podcast. So good. Okay. But really, that's the fear. It's not necessarily that I need like, it's okay, but to address the root of the fear and to say, hey, I've got this and I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. You're my number one priority. And then the kids.
Why does that feel like silly to me? And I know it's not. It's not. It absolutely isn't. But it feels like that's not going to do anything.
You're like, just buck up and do it, like, and expecting the same for me. So it might just still be growth and realizing like that for me to be soft and feminine, I have to be comfortable and not worried or stressed.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Like, it's very masculine when I think about it, like to do that. I think truthfully, it's like, I think because maybe that wouldn't do it for me, yeah. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense.
Was there a part because, or maybe it would, because for a lot of our marriage, I probably was operating more in the masculine role because you were not operating in, not saying you were like feminine, but I'm just saying you were passive.
Yeah.
He was passive. And so that required me to take the lead and get things done and be, responsible for all kinds of things. And so maybe you're not, like, seeing me in that role now as I'm learning the art of softness and trying to soften back into a more like feminine role and state of just being able to be less stressed and not worried about every aspect of our life, but trusting you with it. Now it looks weird. Maybe it's like, I'm not used to seeing.
I mean, maybe we've just never done it like that.
Not so confident and not so.
Yeah. Like I've never done that. And so I think maybe that's also why it just is like so different. And I think because when you were operating in that way and I was a little bit more passive, it was because you are very confident when you carry yourself in the way that you talk about things. I mean, you would research things. Yeah. And so it was easy to be passive because you would do all these things and I'd be like, I don't know any of that. I don't have time to research that because I'm working all day long. So you know better than I do. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let it be whatever you say, whatever you think. I trust you. And so it became like, but I didn't realize that was actually a burden that was starting to be placed on you. And so
I think once it flooded into like more areas of our life, where I felt decision fatigue because I felt like I had to make every decision. But to be fair, like I held on to some of it out of fear that was rooted in childhood things and issues with trust. And so, I mean, that goes both ways, but it's fascinating to think about, really. Yeah. So maybe it's a combination of both of you not used to seeing me take a more like insecure and passive role, or position. Yeah. So you're like, what is wrong with you? But then also, if you guys didn't know, John his dad was not in the picture for about 5 years when he was 7 to 12. And so those are pretty key years of your life where if you didn't have someone to pour into you or support you, emotionally, it would be difficult to tap into those emotions. So it could be both of those things. But I don't think it's like individual to you. I think this is probably a common thing with men today because of our parents' generation and their parents' generation. We're very much not taking a disciple approach to parenting,
Right,
but it
right.
was more, like, get over it, be seen, not heard. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I also want to make a point to clarify that women, our emotions they're not the end all be all. Like, they are not the thing that should drive all of our decisions and our marriage. We are emotional, and it is a beautiful gift, but we do need to learn how to temper them with the word of God, how to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ so that we don't let our emotions steer the whole ship. I think being where we are now, where I can trust you more with my emotions, helps, because I can go to you when I'm struggling with it. And it really helps to, what do you call it? Like, regulate quicker, I think, having you be understanding.
Right.
So what would you say has helped shift your perspective to understanding the need to be understanding?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, to prioritize it and to actually, can you give someone who might be listening, like, their husbands are wondering, how do I even step outside of the logic? Like, how do I even get to a point where I remember to think about her feelings?
One thing that's really helped was I actually just started reading, which I never was a big reader, but I just kind of got to the point where I was tired of not leading my family well, not serving my family well, and it just wasn't ever really modeled to me. And so I needed to go figure it out. And it wasn't just going to be like handed to me. And so I think Jason Wilson, I believe is his name. He wrote Battle Cry and The Man, the Moment Demands. That's what I'm reading right now. And he's very much like in tune with like emotion, but also masculine and like strength. And so basically he just talks about, it's not being weak to be emotional and to be able to tap into those things. But then also he talks about leading your family and how you, as the man, you are responsible for the burdens your wife is carrying. And so that was something that was kind of like, oh man, like I need to really step up and start leading and doing things that weren't easy for me. And even now I'm still trying to, but it kind of got to the point where, just hearing it enough said that like women are emotional, men are logical, women are emotional, men are logical. And so when it was just logic, it goes in line with logic. Because it's like, okay, I logically now know that women are emotional. So now I can apply this information I have to these situations. So when it comes up, it's not easy. Like my natural reaction is to want to get angry because that's something I've been struggling with or dealing with and overcoming. That initially I'm like, feel it, that little, like, why is she even saying that? That doesn't make any sense. We need to be doing this. We need to be, working right now. We need to, whatever, not be cleaning the house. And so it just kind of was like, okay. And maybe, I don't know if this is the selfish way to look at it, but sometimes it's like, in order to be able to do the logical thing, I have to meet your emotions and then we can get to the logical thing. And so that logically makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I can stop. And it's not that I'm like gonna just give you what you want or say, just say the thing just to get you to stop. It's just like, okay, she's dealing with something.
Let's recognize that I need to be taken care of.
Yes.
First.
Right. And absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing is we want our wives to be happy. And I'm very much against happy wife, happy life, because that's not a true thing whatsoever. Your life could be completely miserable and your wife could be completely happy because you just do whatever she wants if you're a passive man. And so, but I think our jobs as husbands are to bear the burdens that you don't need to be bearing. And then whenever you're obviously having something you're struggling with, we need to step up and help you work through those things.
Yeah. So really that goes back to seeking to understand, because you're trying to understand my needs, where I'm stuck emotionally, so that we can move forward, because it's your job to move us forward. If you can't do it because I'm really having a hard time with something, then be your job to understand what that is and help me fix it or work through it to the point where we can move forward.
It is our own sinful nature that makes us not even want to engage with the emotional.
Oh, that's both ways though. Like, think about even just not wanting to see things from the other perspective.
Yeah.
This is affecting me, and here's how.
Right.
Or assuming negative intentions. It's all funneled through our own like selfishness. Like, why would they hurt? Why would they do that? They knew that was going to upset me. It's just, it's a very like focused on our own feelings and needs and thoughts, and not really thinking about what the other person might have been thinking, could have been feeling.
Right. So that's what, I think the beginning isn't even like understanding your wife. It's understanding yourself and how you operate and how you tick, and the things that are sinful, your sinful nature inside of you. Like I said, my anger was a big one. And so overcoming that helped me to then be able to like take care patient, of your own emotional state.
That's very true. And that's a good point. I feel like the way that we learn to communicate and the way that we learn to lend grace to each other really is what, if you think about it, that's what assuming positive intent is. Grace. It's giving enough grace to say, they probably didn't mean that the way that it feels right now. Let me see if I can get to the bottom of what they did mean. Because anyway, that grace is what we want to model for our children. We want them to learn how to communicate with us and with each other in a way that's gracious. We want our children to be patient with each other. How many times have two of the girls like gotten in a fight because somebody did something and the other one is like, she did this, and they're like, I didn't mean to, and we're like, hey, trying to explain the intentions to them, and that makes a difference. There's a difference between going up and kicking your sister in the shin or falling and accidentally kicking your sister in the shin. And so just explaining those intentions. So I think them seeing us model giving each other the benefit of the doubt and grace. And then, that goes even into parenting our kids, giving them the same grace, not assuming that when they forgot to do the thing you told them to do 3 times, not assuming that when they, didn't clean up a mess that they made. I think it's so quick to be like, how could they do this? This is so rude. This is so disrespectful. Like, I know they heard me and they just don't care. Sometimes they do care. They really are just living in the moment because they're children and they don't have the same skills to temper their impulses, and their impulse control is not the same as an adult's. Sometimes ours isn't very good, but children even less so.
Even along those lines, we still can correct that in our children. And I think we can even not necessarily correct it in our spouse, but we can ask them to recognize it. Like if there might be a way that they're acting, like I was saying, it might've been the way that it was modeled to them and they don't know any differently, but you might say something that comes across kind of disrespectful for me, or the way that you're asking me to do something is kind of not kind or maybe a little rude.
Yeah,
and so impatient. I can say impatient. Yeah. I can say, hey, I don't mind you asking me to do that, but could you try to ask nicer, or could you, you know, and so it doesn't mean that.
Or even saying like, hey, I'm assuming that the intention was positive. Right. Yeah, no problem. I just want to let you know the way that you said that or communicated that or whatever you did was kind of hurtful to me. Like, it's fine. I know you didn't mean it, but I just wanted you to be aware that if you said it like this, instead it would not strike. So that is open communication, and that is, that's taking it and growing from it together, but giving grace, because there's such a difference between coming out like that or be like, getting mad, like if you just get mad, fluffing, I'm not going to do that. How dare you talk to me like that? Then like everybody's shut down, nobody's growing and nothing's moving forward. Right. And you're a family unit, like you're on the same team. The goal is to like move forward together. And so that just keeps you stuck. Whereas it really does benefit both parties to assume positive intention. It's not just like giving sloppy grace to your spouse and letting them walk all over you. It's saying, okay, I recognize a little bit of weakness there in them. So I'm going to address it, but I'm also going to cover it in love, which is exactly what the Bible says. Love covers over a multitude of sins. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, that is our podcast. I think that wraps it, unless you have anything else.
Wraps it. No.
I think that wraps.
Thanks for having me.
Married
this was
and
fun.
Misunderstood. I feel like I know you better.
I feel like I know you better too. Want to go make out?
We love you guys. If you want to join our community, we have an online community waiting for you. Live discussions every single week. You can weigh in on the conversations. You can share your stories. You can ask us questions. If you are looking for fellowship with like-minded women to build you up and encourage you in the faith, we would love to have you at our Rooted Deeply community. It's online. You can go to rooteddeeply.org/join to check it out today. We have all kinds of discussion groups, Bible studies, devotionals, you name it. We would love to see you there. Till next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are looking to be a part of a Christian community with other women who will build you up, encourage you, and challenge you to grow in your faith, and if you want to join in the discussions that we're having in the Rooted Deeply podcast, you can head to rooteddeeply.org/join and get started. We would love to have you there.